Did you all enjoy watching the beautiful scenes from our new planetarium projector? My favorite instant was when the Apollo 17 ascent stage took off from the moon, just soared out of there and back to the command module. Just so fast. You imagine how fast that thing could have done. It brought me back to a place and a time in 1972 when I was watching television that night, when the spacecraft was sitting on the moon. We were just watching it. It didn't have quite the effect that they have now, but it was real and live. And I saw the launch from the moon of the Apollo 17 spacecraft with Jack Schmitt, the first geologist and only geologist ever to explore the moon on board. That was really something. And that brought me back earlier in time to July the 20th, 1969, when I was working at a summer camp in the Adirondacks. It was Camp Minowbrook, and we were all sitting in an auditorium about, not quite as large as this room, but it was a pretty hefty room with a tiny little black and white television set in front. That was the technology of the time. And Walter Cronkite was describing what was happening. It was a long evening, and then suddenly they had Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin standing on the porch of the lunar module, and he got very quiet. And there were a group of about 150 children there, ranging in age from 6 to my age at the time, and you could hear a pin drop in that auditorium as he went down from one step to another, and then made his final step onto the lunar surface. That's one small step for a man, and one giant leap for mankind. And that's something I will never forget. I became a well-known astronomer. I don't know that I deserve it or not, but one of the things that has happened over the years, and it brought me, all of these things eventually brought me here to Tucson, Arizona, so that I could pursue my love of the night sky and do it in a way that I would really enjoy, a way that I could really only accomplish from here in southern Arizona. And I absolutely love doing it. I've been on your channel 6 a number of times, being interviewed about what I do, and I still do. I'm on monthly on the Bill Buckmaster Show on the radio now, and where I talk about what I do, and I get a chance whenever I can to talk about what I do. But I do it very calmly and sedately, because right now at this stage of life, I'm a very calm, sedate person. It wasn't always that way. When I was a kid, I had a temper. Boy, I had a tantrum. I would throw things around, and I was really a mean little kid. I say mean big kid. I was about this height, right from birth. But when I was like 14 years old, I was this height, but only weighed about 96 pounds. So I was a real string bean. And I was an asthmatic. And during the summer of 1962, I was waiting for permission to become a member of the Jewish National Home for Asthmatic Children, because in addition to being tall, lanky, and stupid, I was also an asthmatic. But I was also into astronomy, like you wouldn't believe, and I was writing my first book, not one of the 37, but one that would never, ever be published, called An Encyclopedia of the Universe. And that day, I took out my bicycle and rode up our street up to the top of this hill called Summit Park. I took the typewriter out and I started typing. And it was a chapter on double stars. You know, most of the stars in the sky are not single like our sun is. Most of them are married like most of the stars in the sky. Double stars, where the two stars go around each other, almost as if in a marriage. Some of them are triple, some are quadruple. They're stars in clusters, all kinds of things. Really, no two suns are alike. And, of course, stars are people, too. And I was writing about this, and I was enjoying writing it. And I can even read you a sentence. I must have enjoyed writing it. Orbital motions of doubles orbital motions of the components of visual monitors will enough of that. And I got about halfway down to the page, and the typewriter did a clack when it should have done a click, and it wasn't quite right. My temper took over. I took the paper, and I ripped it out of the typewriter. Just ripped it as fast as I could. It tore, obviously. And that didn't help my temper tantrum. I lifted up the typewriter. Wish I brought it with me. I still have. I lifted up the typewriter and I slammed it into the maple tree I was sitting underneath. And the typewriter kind of blew a couple of springs and things like that. And I thought, that's not enough. And I took the typewriter and I slammed it again and again and again. And I thought, that takes care of this book. I put the typewriter back on my bicycle, rode back home, and Mom said, how was your afternoon? I said, not too bad, not too good. Next morning, I woke up. Got a good night's sleep. Nothing can solve a temper tantrum like a good night's sleep. Took on my bicycle, took my mom's typewriter, and went back to the same spot under the same tree, put the second half of the page that I had ripped out into the typewriter and started typing. And I have here to show you the original 2 pages. This is the top half, done with my typewriter. And this here, complete with the table, is the bottom half, done with my mom's typewriter. Then I went to Denver. My dad really missed me. He didn't want me to go, but he really missed me. And one day when he was really missing me, Mom said, well, you can take his typewriter and get it fixed. Finally, when I get this letter from Dad, he says, whatever did you do with your damn typewriter? Did you drive over it or something? I don't think I ever told him what I did with my typewriter. And that was one of the stories of my early life, how I got going into astronomy, how I made it here to Arizona, and how on this very spot, this very podium, on March the 23rd, 1997, my wife Wendy and I were married, right at this spot. Now, I know you're about to give me the signs, so I'm going to wind this up, and I'm going to wind this up by saying that I love doing this. I love sharing my experiences, good and not so good, with people who are interested and excited and alive and alert and enthusiastic. I love going out, looking up at the night sky. I love to quote Shakespeare. I love to quote Tennyson. These are my favorite poets. But the poet I'm going to finish with tonight is neither of those. Ralph Hodgson was a British poet, and he lived in the early part of the 20th century, and he imagined himself on a hill that's not unlike the hill where my wife and I live, where I go out and observe. And he's finishing up a poem, and he says, I stood and stared. The sky was lit. The sky with stars all over it. I stood. I knew not why. Without a wish, without a will, I stood upon that silent hill and stared into the night until my eyes were blind with stars. And still I stared into the sky. Thank you.